everybody, welcome back. Brand new Cabral HouseCall, first one of the weekend. Can't wait to get in, as always. See what our community has for questions. Let me open up that document right now. As we settle in, if you want to follow along with the show notes, feel free to do so. StephenCabral.com/3641. All right, I've got it. Let's hop right in. First question is from Savannah. Savannah says, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. My daughter was diagnosed with PANDAS through blood work after noticing a lot of behavioral regression. She's also been diagnosed with level 1, high-functioning autism. I feel like a detective trying to figure out what's causing all these flares. Some months she seems to have zero symptoms. Other things set it off. One culprit causing the PANDAS, but overlaps into autistic behaviors. I'm trying to guess as to what is one of the mystery triggers. Also suggestions of where to start to boost her immune system. I feel so discouraged as a parent, not knowing how to help my child as they suffer. Just as I think I find a good supplement stops working, such as valerian. We're using it for a calming aid. Totally understand where you're coming from. And hopefully you've been to StephenCabral.com/podcasts and you've typed in PANDAS before, because I have so many podcasts and house calls actually on PANDAS. But keep in mind that when we're overall addressing PANDAS, we're talking about pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorders associated with a specific type of bacteria called streptococcal infections. So my job as a practitioner is to look at the research and also share with you what works in clinical practice. And for PANDAS, for children, I don't know how old your daughter is, we always run 3 lab tests for the gut. The first one is called the Candida Metabolic and Vitamins test. The second one is the Bacterium Parasite Stool test. And the third one is the IgG Food Sensitivity test. All of those are at StephenCabral.com/shop. That just takes you over to Equalife. Okay, that's called the Big 3 Gut Bundle. Now, the reason we run those is to look for parasites, to look for bacterial overgrowth in the gut, to look for Candida yeast overgrowth, and to look for H. pylori. After that, we're looking for food sensitivities, and we'll obviously see overall gut inflammation. Because we know we're going to find some imbalances there. Once we find those imbalances, we detect them, and we use something like the Children's CBO protocol, along with a specific nutrition plan and other good foundational supplements. The immune system is going to naturally start to rebalance itself. Why? Because you've emptied the rain barrel of the toxins that shouldn't be there, and you've cleared up the number one thing that sets off the immune system, which is the gut. 80% of your immune system is in or around your gut with that gut-associated lymphoid tissue, GALT, right? And it is constantly triggering inflammation. That's why it's very difficult, because your daughter's rain barrel is filling up and you're not always knowing what the food triggers are, because sometimes it's 2 to 3 days later. That is an IgG food sensitivity. Please run those labs if you're able to, and then begin the protocol, right? So you get the protocol completely laid out for you. It's all personalized by running the labs at StephenCabral.com/shop, but you can also work with an IHP level 2 or level 3, and they can help you out as well. And those practitioners are at Integrative Health, practitioner.org, and just click on practitioners. I have no association with any of their practices, but you are welcome to work with them, because I always want what's best for you and your daughter. All right. Hopefully that's helpful, and that will allow you to get to the bottom of it once and for all. My new book, Personomics, talks all about this as well, how to get a personalized plan just for you. And there's all sorts of free assessments in there too for children and adults. All right, Yvonne's up next. As a post-menopausal woman, according to my gynecologist, I'm not eligible for bioidentical hormones. Is it okay to take DHEA after a certain age due to ongoing menopause symptoms of facial aging, insomnia, vaginal dryness, etc.? If so, what's the dosage? Okay, well, again, there's debate on this. If you're 10 years past menopause, some gynecologists do not believe in nor will give bioidentical hormone replacement. It's a personal philosophy. Other doctors will. DHEA, keep in mind, is a hormone precursor. Literally called a prohormone. It's a precursor to, it sits right above testosterone and estrogen. Estradiol, more specifically, and estradiol then could become estrone and estriol. It also helps to balance progesterone, very specifically progesterone and cortisol. To me, it's one of the number one things we use in our practice, especially for people over the age of 50 to 55 years old, and that includes women. How to know the right dosage for you? Simply run the stress mood and metabolism test. At-home lab test that will give you your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, cortisol throughout the day, your thyroid levels, free T3, T4, TSH, TPR antibodies, your blood sugar level, the hemoglobin A1C, basically rated over the last 90 days, and your vitamin D level. It's the best lab out there for hormones, like without a doubt. We use that for everybody. I use it myself twice a year. Okay, Emily's up next. So hopefully that helps Yvonne. But yes, we have no issue with that. We start at 5 milligrams at breakfast and 5 milligrams at dinner. It's a very low dose. Then, how are you feeling? Feeling well? Okay. We'll either go based on your age, and if you are in menopause, to 10 milligrams in the morning, 10 at night, but we're always going to retest about in 8 weeks after the dosage just to see where it moves the needle. Most women after the age of 60 need about 10 and 10, but again, some women can get away with just 5 and 5 for sure. And again, that's still low dose. Anything under 50 milligrams a day for DHEA is considered a lower dose when you're looking at it for anti-aging. I know that I'll be using it myself in probably 10 years or so from now, because I'm not against it, but I do not use testosterone replacement therapy or any type of exogenous hormone. I'm not against it. Again, could I use it maybe in my 70s? Maybe, if needed, right? But I'm just going to use DHEA only when my testosterone levels decline, if they do, in my late 50s. Okay. Emily's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm currently working through an autoimmune face rash. I'm working with a local integrative functional doctor who is recommending low-dose naltrexone and many other items. What are your thoughts on LDN? Harmful? Helpful? Who should stay on it? Oh, how long should one stay on it? Oh, okay. It's a great question. It's funny because last month inside of High Performance Health, I do one workshop a month with the Longevity Anti-Aging Group. If you don't know about it, it's called High Performance Health. You can check it out at highperformancehealth.org. And we talked about off-label uses for 2 specific drugs. One about cancer, which I can't talk about on this, and the other called low-dose naltrexone. Now, low-dose naltrexone is exactly what it says. Naltrexone is usually used for individuals who might have addiction-based issues and they're coming off, and that's at a high dose. That's like 100 milligrams or so per day, sometimes 150 milligrams. What's low dose? Usually 1.5 to 2.5 to up to 4 milligrams per day. So a tiny dose, right? And usually you start at 0.5 or 1 milligram and you work your way up to about 3 milligrams or so for most people. 2.5 is like the lower end of it, and you see how you do. It could affect your sleep. It could affect mood, but it can very much help to balance inflammation and the immune system. So this isn't necessarily a bad decision by your functional medicine doctor. However, you really need to go in depth on this. This is why your practitioner really does matter, because it's not just about the data on the lab test, it's what they do with it. So it does not tell you your underlying root cause. It does not help you with your underlying root cause. It doesn't. So your autoimmune rash issue is from a gut-based issue, heavy metals, viral issue, extreme stress. Like, there's a reason why. And low-dose naltrexone is not a short-term fix. It doesn't even really kick in and work for the average individual for 3 to 6 months. So just make sure that, again, you're getting the right information. I'm not against low-dose naltrexone at all, but it's a long-term thing. Like, who is it really best for? Someone that's been working on their autoimmune issues for 2 to 3 years. They've done better, but they might have Hashimoto's. They can't fully get their TPO antibodies back down, but they're doing well overall, but they need that next level, right? Like, and they know that this isn't even going to kick in, like, to really work for about 3 to 6 months, right? So that's more who it's for. Short term, yeah, it's not a short-term medication. That's not what it's best for. It actually works best after 6 months, all right? So hopefully that's helpful. And it's more immune modulating. That's the goal of it. Laura's up next. Hi, I'm interested in what ingredients are okay in supplements and food. For example, hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose in baking, or in supplements, different gums, which additives are okay. Thank you. All right, so I've got a lot of shows on this. There are so many that I can't go through all of them just on the one question, but it's a great question. So I don't have an issue with methyl cellulose, which is basically a derivative of plant fiber, right? That's what it is. And usually you see that not so much in baking. So some of these things are just added so the powders don't cake together. But really what you want to look at it as, some of them, like for a capsule, for example, like even at Equilife, we use a hemicellulose. So we use a plant-based vegetable capsule. Some people write vegetable capsule on the other ingredients. That is not how the FDA wants you to label it. We do truth in labeling at Equilife. Everything is on the up and up. Everything is because again, people would love to try to take us down. So we do everything by the book, everything by the label. A vegetable capsule is simply cellulose. It's plant-based fiber. That's what it is. Because you either have to get it from gelatin, which is usually the worst sources of gelatin, like brain-based, bone-based, whatever they don't want to use, like for food, they're going to throw that into your capsule. I'm not okay with that. So I try to use gelatin as little as possible. Oil-based capsules, oil inside needs gelatin. Totally get that, right? So just again, I'm always trying to do the best of the best. But what happens if you don't want that vegetable capsule? Take the capsule. This is okay for most things. Dump it into a beverage. Mix it up, drink it like that, right? And if it's bitter, you can do it with a little bit of cranberry or pomegranate, and you can put it in a smoothie if it doesn't change the taste. So that's how you look at it with that. Gums, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of. I'm not even a huge fan of like tapioca starch. I think it's not great for the gut. But again, in small amounts, no big deal. What are the gums that I'm okay with? Only the ones that are healthy prebiotics. So guar gum is talked about in Ayurvedic medicine, which is why I'm okay with it. Do I go overboard with it? No, but I'm okay with a little guar gum. I have no issue with that whatsoever. I don't use any sugar alcohols because that affects a lot of people's gut as well. Xylitol might be okay for in your mouth, in your nose. Totally agree with the research on that, but I wouldn't swallow it in my stomach. So lots of podcasts on that. What I would do is I would type in your specific ingredient at stephencabral.com/podcast. There's a search box, and I most likely have a show on it. Okay. All right, one more question for the day. This one's from Sheena. Sheena says, oh, by the way, I have to give you my disclaimer. I can't provide a medical advice, medical treatment, medical cures, medical diagnosis. That goes for the LDN and the autoimmune. Okay. Sheena says, hi, Dr. C. Hope you and your team are well. I'm 45 years old in perimenopause and would like to prevent osteoporosis. Could you give me some advice on what's the best way to do this? I take foundational level 3 plus vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, and B complex. I'm not taking any calcium supplements except for my multi. Is that a problem? Do I need a special protocol for perimenopause support and osteo? Any advice or recommendations would be appreciated. Thank you. Okay. So great question. Yeah. 45 years old, certainly could be moving into perimenopause. Don't disagree with you at all. Again, the stress mood and metabolism test will tell you the best. If you want one as to where you are in perimenopause, you can run what's called the menopause and fertility test. All of these are at stephencabral.com/shop. Just takes you over to Equalife. I guess it's a shop. It's a whole functional medicine, integrative health practice. But anyway, it's easier to spell shop, right? All right. So is there a specific protocol? Every protocol is based on you, what your body needs. I don't want to give the perimenopause protocol because who's to say you need it? So should women take calcium? Probably. Yeah. We use a product called CalMag Complete. It's essentially a 1-for-1. So let's say 150 milligrams of calcium, 150 milligrams of magnesium. So we really like to get magnesium and calcium up. We do some from supplementation, but for the most part, truthfully, we get that calcium from the diet. But calcium is important not just in perimenopause. It's important well before that because really after the age of 27, women start to lose bone mass if they're not weight training. So that brings me to the next point. Never more important, really. I mean, it's important your whole life, but during perimenopause, you should be weight training twice a week. Absolutely. If you do 3, that's amazing, but twice a week is great. Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, anything like that, just split it up in the week. That's great. A lot of people talk about walking with a weighted vest. Sure, you do want weight on those joints on an incline, but really you want to squat, deadlift, step up, lunge. All of those things are going to be great for the body. I mean, those are the ones that are going to keep the most bone mass. Why? Because the majority of bone is from your kneecap to the top of your hip. That's the truth. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. Whole food, nutritional supplements, weight training. That is the way to go. And again, hopefully this was helpful. I'll be back tomorrow answering more of our community's questions.